Perfect. So, hello everyone. Welcome to this session on the testing game. We'll be talking about some common pitfalls and biases in managing testing. Thank you to Muke Test for inviting me for this webinar. This is the first webinar that I'm doing with them, and the intent is to talk about the fun part of testing and how using some common pitfalls, common biases that roam around in the industry, this game element has start with some quick rules, some ground rules. My name is Rahul Parwal. My Twitter handle is @ParwalRahul. So you can tag me to talk about this talk. You can ask me questions. If you like any slide you want to share with somebody, do that. And one thing or one good thing that I would promise right now is that if you tag me, I'll share you a wonderful resource in your DM on whatever platform you tag me and talk about this webinar. So that's part one. Let's start with the quick introduction, what we would be covering. So we'll be talking and doing a poll to get your experience, to capture how your experience is and does it resonates with what my experience and what my observations have been. Then we would see what went wrong, what are the things that are not going in the right way, and why that is happening. We'll see some common pitfalls, and most of these pitfalls would be things that happen in day-to-day work that testers do. Eventually, we'll talk about realities, how to balance or avoid these pitfalls. We'll summarize the entire session. I'll also give you some resources, some references, and in the end, we would take Q&A. So we'll be starting with the poll. So the starting is the poll time, and my questions would come one by one. And what you have to do, you have to calculate your score, and as of now you don't have to share your score, keep it to yourself and add +1 if any of these conditions is valid for you. So add +1 if you have ever felt bored with your day-to-day testing job. So if you feel or if you have felt in the past for some considerable amount of time that the day-to-day testing job is boring, add +1. If you have felt that you are spending too much time in writing test cases, in preparing reports, artifacts, ever had this feeling, add +1. Third point is, if you felt worried about the product status, despite having green automation report, everything 100% pass, your automation says the product is green, good, but still as a tester you were worried about the product status. If that has been a condition, add +1. Next is, if you have ever found bugs in a product, you felt they were important to be addressed, you raised them or you were about to raise them and somebody asked you that don't raise these issues because they don't map to any test case or any defined written requirement. If something like this has happened to you, add +1. If you have ever been asked that don't ask too many questions, add +1. If you were in a project where you were testing day in and day out, but you never had a discussion about test strategy with your team. Maybe you made a test strategy, maybe it was a document that was there, but you never discussed it with your developers, with your team, and never demonstrated or talked about it, add +1. If you had no awareness about the end customer, the customer who is going to use your product when it is going to be out there in the market, if you had no awareness about them or your competitors, who are the other competitors working on the similar area, add +1. If you do minimal or no pair testing at work, add +1. And if you feel that a lot of focus in your context, in your organization, is on creating test cases, running them, over actually spending time in learning about the product and exploring the product, add +1. And the last is, if you have never used some kind of cheat sheets or checklists or some test idea banks or any such resources, add +1. Now I'll give you 10 seconds to add all these +1s, and in the Q&A section, just post your score there. I cannot see anything in the Q&A. Okay, so now I have started getting answers. The first answer I got is 4. Next is 5. Somebody said 6. A 6. One more 6. The total number of questions is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 10 questions and most of the answers are 6, 4, 7, 8. I'll wait for 10 more seconds. Okay, I've got one more. 10. Somebody said 10. So they have seen it all. I mean, they felt bored. They were spending too much time. So I think this webinar is for you. I mean, whoever answered it 10, this is absolutely made for you. Okay, so we have got some answers. The average is somewhere around 7, 6 to 7. Some people had lower, some had higher. Got one more answer. That is 7. So 7 is essentially the average of what people feel or the problems that people also face. Now we will see what has happened and why a lot of people are facing this problem. Now I started this webinar with the name The Testing Game. Now, why I called it the game? Because testing is a lot about learning. It's about exploration. It's about finding the true status of the product. Now, learning is fun, just like games. And as a professional, I see my testing as a game. But at the same time, when I talk to different people, I see that they don't look at it like a game. So now what has gone wrong? Let's understand that. We have seen the scores, average is 7. Let's understand what has gone wrong. The first thing that at the industry level we have gone wrong is a lot of people, lot of testers have forgotten the basics of the game. Now, what are the basics of any game? First, games unfold with time. They cannot be scripted. And third is good games are a lot about exploration. Good games are about exploring the product rather than scripting the process. Second thing that has gone wrong for people who understand that it's a game is that people are playing the game badly. Now, why badly? Two reasons. Most people are not even playing it. So most people are not approaching testing as a fun activity. They are approaching it as an activity to just complete. They are busy completing the task. They are busy writing scripts, but not going into the game and fun element of the testing profession. The third part is some people, there is a category of people who are playing it on misunderstood or on the wrong rules. Now, what are misunderstood rules or wrong assumption based rules? First, some people are saying, or some stakeholders of testing or customers of testing would say that don't raise a bug that are not mapped with test cases. Now, bug is any problem in the product that matters to the customer. Now, this is a common sense of any game. But restricting a bug because we don't have a written requirement for it is just bad work. It's just a wrong rule that somebody has given. Second is somebody is saying testing only on the defined test cases. Now, test cases are just small checks in your entire landscape of testing. Now, basing your test on these small checks, small checkpoints, will eventually not give you the full leverage of the game. And third is when a lot of people talk about coverage, people restrict the coverage to just the code coverage aspect of things. Now, code is not the only area that we as a testers have to cover. We have to cover the structure, the different functions, the interfaces, the platforms, the different operations, the timing, and so on. So now these are all the cases where the traditional rules were either misunderstood or somebody has talked or started a wrong notion about the rules. And the last problem that has happened is a lot of people are not leveraging the true game rules. Now, what are the essential rules of any game? I mean, if you want to learn, you have to ask questions. You need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy how you will learn. And you have to explore the things and then learn them one by one. And you have to explore the areas that interest you, that you find are more important, and so on. So again, not if you're not asking questions, not making a strategy, not exploring well, that's a problem. Now this is at a high level why there could be a chance that you might not be feeling, or a lot of people might not be feeling testing as a game. Now the reasons and how to convert this so that you could really manage testing well at a personal level and as well as at a team level. So let's look at some of the common pitfalls. I'll talk about the first common pitfall, that is premature formal testing. Now, for a lot of people who had given marks on the lines of 10, 7, 8, a common problem that happens in the industry is we try to attempt premature formal testing. Instead of spending time in understanding the product, exploring the product, into looking into the various intricacies, dependencies, risks of the product, people immediately try to start writing test cases. Now, test cases are the areas that you should be checking in the product. But even before knowing the product well enough, you want to write test cases, or somebody wants the test cases to be written. Now, you can just imagine the quality of such test cases. The same thing happens when you try to create or write automation scripts without even exploring the product. So you are automating something. Suppose that something is chaos, then you are automating faster chaos. Third thing is metrics. A lot of people start over focusing on the metrics rather than on the creative part, on the exploring part, on the fun part of testing. Now, metrics is important, but at the same time, if you measure a kid who has just entered the field on how good they can play cricket, that is counterproductive. Now, this image is actually an example of how people apply over formalization or premature formalization to a process. The essence of any game is to learn it, to play with it, to explore it. Now, once you do that, that is a good time to bring in the formal processes, formal things, metrics, automation scripts, and so on. So, what I wanted to share is this. So, this entire image is from a fantastic article by Michael Bolton on sock puppets of formal testing, which helps us understand that what are the key elements of testing. And at the start, whenever you are new to a product, what you do is the green part, which is testing to learn. And to learn anything, you start with interacting with the product, with playing around with it, by talking to people, by having discussions, by talking to stakeholders, what are the issues that they think are risky, and so on. Then you do some exploratory surveys. You just go into the field, you see what is the product, what are the different elements of the product, what it can do, what are the different functions, features, and so on. You analyze that. You create a outline of the entire product. Now, product coverage outline means creating a mental model or a map or a boundary of what this product is all about, and this is the area where you have to test. Then you think of the test conditions, and till you do this, you have learned good enough, and now you are prepared for the game. And then comes the formal part of testing, which is then thinking of test data, creating scripts, testing them, writing scripts so that automation can test them, and then you go into a confirmation mode rather than a learning mode, that things are working as expected. Now, good testing always starts with exploratory work, with learning work. Now, if you are not doing that, testing won't feel like a game to you. Testing would feel like a burden if you directly start with the confirmation part, if you directly start with writing the scripts part, test case part, metrics part. So this entire diagram can be summarized in one line, that if you really want to do excellent formal testing, you have to do excellent informal testing. And this is what happens in life also. If you want to buy the best mobile phone for yourself, you have to really research on different aspects of your needs, what the market offers, what different company offers, the price proposition, and all that informal work will eventually help you to do that formal activity of purchasing a phone. And the same can be applied to any context. If you want to be good at games, you have to play at it, you have to see people doing it, what are the tips and tricks, learn from the experts, and a lot of informal work, and then you apply it to your formal level. I see 3 new questions, which is essentially support material shared by Ajay. Thank you. Okay, so then we move on to the next common mistake. And next common mistake is testing only on written requirements. Now, a very big problem in the industry is that a lot of people think that written requirements are the golden truth of the product. Now, I have a question and I want you to answer that for any app that you have used till now, have you ever read the started using it, or you started using it and playing around with it, and that's how you interact with products? So give me an answer in the Q&A as yes or no. Yes if you directly play around with it, and no if you look into the user guide. I'm waiting for your response. Do you look into the user guide of your product or no? Because I work on complex system. Okay. Yes means you directly start working on it. No. Okay. Somebody looks into the documentation and then works. No, no, no. Okay. Cool. So I see a lot of yes. No. So for folks who are saying no, so I think I have not explained, because when I see the answer in no, they essentially say that we do exploratory work rather than written work and all. Okay. So this means that as a user, most of you use the product by interacting with it. Now, when your customer is going to use the product by interacting with it and not reading the user guide in most of the cases, why do you think that you should only test on the return, not to the return requirements? Now I'll talk about this great pyramid of requirements, and it's important to understand this because a lot of times we confuse the written requirements with the total requirements. So now written requirements are just the top of a pyramid. Underlying that is the overall written documentation. So now written requirement is somebody's perception of a requirement that they have written of what they felt was very important from their context, understanding and thought process, that this is sufficient enough requirement for a tester to understand or for a developer to understand and build. Now it is supported and it is backed by some kind of written documentation, flow charts, technical diagrams and so on. Now those are again some form of requirements. Then there are some implicit assumptions also, that the color coding would be appealing, the things would be consistent with the past product, we will maintain the branding. Now a lot of times such information is not put on the written requirement or even in the written documentation. These are implicit assumptions which is expected that testers would test, the developers would develop like that. Now below the implicit assumption are unspoken desires of the customer, that if I am not able to log in, I should get a forgot password link right here itself. If I want to go back to the first screen, maybe I should have an option to go back. Now these are things which people desire. A lot of the desires cannot be stated. Some of them can be, they go to the written documentation, written requirements, but a lot cannot be. So these are unspoken desire. And then there are some requirements which even your customer is not sure about. So you have to ask them questions to make sure that they can help you and they can give you their opinion on it. But most customers or most stakeholders will not tell you that till you ask them those questions. So till you don't play that game, don't go to that level, you cannot never unlock that secret that is hidden at the end. Now requirement won't even come from one place or just from within the project. Requirement would probably come from a lot of places. Now so this is one model of requirement gathering that I made, which talks about how a lot of times people restrict themselves to this core idea of acceptance testing. But on top of it, there are documented requirements. At the bottom, there are undocumented requirements. Then documented requirements come from multiple sources. Undocumented requirements again come from multiple sources. For example, verbal discussion with the team. Somebody talked about it in a demo, or consistency with the previous product. Then there are assumptions, then there are desirements. And as a tester, it's very important that at the first step, we start tracking all of these requirement gathering sources. Now, there are multiple sources. The primary source or the first source is this gray block of Jira, ALM, Wiki, etc. So, I mean, people think the requirement means the things that are written on Jira. But are we looking at the design diagrams, flowchart? Are we looking at examples that we are sharing with the customer, the user guide, or the claims that the marketing team is making? Who is selling the product? What are they telling the customer? Suppose they are telling something which we are not doing, then automatically that becomes a bug for the customer. For example, marketing says this product needs no restart for 5 days, but your product actually hangs after 1 day. So then that's automatically a bug for a customer. Now you cannot say to the customer that because my written requirement doesn't talk about it, I don't test it. To test for your marketing claims, check the standards, the accessibility standards, the usability standards, the W3C standards, the compliances. Now all of these are implicit requirements which the browser expects you to comply to. Then stand-ups, day-to-day discussions, some points can come up. Demos, discussions, customer feedback. Customer feedback is an important point. Sometimes critical customers or the way they explain, that's important. Grooming meetings, quality criteria. What are the quality criteria that matter to you in your context? Now, every quality criteria would bring in its own requirement. For example, if you care about good accessibility, then accessibility compliance can be your requirement. If you care about security, then testing for security is your requirement. And then there are certain implied requirements that you get to know when you ask questions. Now, context-free questions is an amazing resource to find more about the implicit requirements or desires of your customers. So that's about requirement gathering and how you can approach it in a holistic way so that your testing game can go to the next level. So till now we discussed 2 points. First, premature formalization. Second, restricting the requirement only to the written requirements. And let's go to the third part. Now, the third part is very common. A lot of testers test products without making a strategy, without ever looking at a strategy, or by creating a strategy but a strategy with the stakeholders, or not knowing what is the difference between a strategy and a plan. Now, if you want to test, you would be able to test, but if you want to test without a strategy, you would essentially be at a risk. Now, that risk would be very similar to taking a risk of taking medicines on your own without any doctor consultation. So, strategy is important. Every context is different, every project is different, every team is different. How you want to strategize your testing has to be tuned to your context. You can never apply my context to your project and get the same results. Even when people in the same family get viral, depending on their age, depending on their medical history, different kind of prescription is given to them. So focus on the strategy, focus on getting a strategy for your context. And how do you get that? You get that by considering parameters. Now, what kind of parameters? There are 4 essential elements of any strategy. I refer and use HTSM, so I am talking about that. But usually, test strategy would talk about product elements. What is the product about? What is the project about? What are the quality criteria and the different testing techniques that you have to use? Now, product elements could be your structure of the product, the different functions in it, the data, what are the data that you want to focus on, the big data, small data, and noisy data, what can you expect from on the platform, different interfaces that this product, operations that you can do with this product or with the features, and timing related things. Would it be how would it behave if you perform certain things quickly, slowly, when will the things go time out, and so on. So these are essentially the part of the product elements. Next is the project environment, which talks about what is the mission of your testing. Now, mission is very important to testing, because if you don't have a mission, you don't know what's important for the end customer, what's important for your stakeholder. So know the mission, know the information, where is the information about the project. This will also point you to places from where you can get the different sources of requirement. You have to think about developer relations and how much time can they give you, who else is in your team, what are their skills, what are the different equipments that you have, test tools that you have, do you need any licenses, and if that is required, is it mentioned here, or have you thought and discussed about it with your team? What are the schedules that the team expects you to work on for your testing, and different kind of test items that are expected from you. Sometimes there is a surprise after the end of the release when somebody asks you certain type of report. Have we discussed them? If not, time to look into your strategy. Now, different quality criteria. Now, there can be more at a high level. These are important quality criteria: capability, reliability, usability, the charisma of the product, how it looks and feels, the security, scalability, performance, installability, the development quality criteria, the clean coding practices, and so on. Next is the testing techniques: function testing, domain testing, flow testing, claims testing. data testing, risk testing, so on and so forth. So what kind of testing techniques you have to apply, and what all things are important to your context. It's important to discuss them, look at these things, and also talk to them with your customer, because if you don't do that, sometimes important things can feel like an alarm. They can feel like things that why didn't we thought about it? Why are we falling into this trap? Oh, we've missed this important aspect. To avoid all of these issues, work on your test strategy. And the day you will talk, discuss about your test strategy with your team, they would also get more confidence in you. They would also feel more confident about the things that you are doing. One of the very big problem that I see in the testing world is that testers are not able to showcase their work beyond the test results, beyond the metrics, beyond test cases, and beyond automation scripts. There is a lot of activities that we do, and it's important that we showcase them. Now, test strategy is one such important way. Next is not using hacks. Now, I'll wait for any questions that we have till now. I have a question from Sandeep on testing mnemonics and checklist. Ajay has shared some two resources, and we will also discuss about this. Any other question? If no question, you can write no question in the Q&A. I'll wait for three no. Okay. I see two new question. Two no. 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, one very good question. How will I be able to influence my team? I am a fresher to the industry. Good question. We would take this question at the end in the Q&A. That is the first thing that I'll answer. But that's a really good question. I mean, I'm just noting that down somewhere so that I would cover that in the end. But perfect. I mean, so essentially, no question on the topics that we have discussed till now. Okay, perfect. So not using hacks. That is part four. And I see one more question, which is no question. Perfect. So the fourth common problem that a lot of people face, a lot of people whom I meet in social media, and I have been sharing the same good resources again and again, again and again, time and again on the post. And every time I see that a lot of people are not aware of good hacks that are available in the industry, and they are not using the ready to use hacks that are there in the game. Now, in any game, any computer game, if you would have played, there are hacks which make the game very interesting, which make you very powerful, which gives you additional capabilities. Now, the testing game also has some hacks, and it has a lot of hacks. So, if you want more hacks, then what I would cover, just DM me or tag me, and I'll DM you. So, not using hacks. First, I want to share my personal hacks. So my personal hacks are checklists. So I use checklists for testing the common software errors, for UI, for usability, for APIs. So any product you give me, I have certain checklists which are based out of standard materials on UX, usability, API, errors, web elements, and so on. And I can quickly check if my product is having those issues. I have often shared this with the developers also, that they can test their own product and give me a quality product for testing rather than me giving them the same bugs time and again. So that's one way how you do this. Second is using tools. Now, one way to use tools is you find tools or restrict yourself to the tools that you already know. But a smart way to look at tools is look for tool catalogs. Now, one catalog that I and Ajay made, and we refer to it from time and again, is Ultimate Productivity Toolkit. Now, Ultimate Productivity Toolkit doesn't talk about big tools like, for example, Selenium or Cypress or Playwright, but it talks about small micro tools that can help you be more productive, that can help you leverage on the small tasks that you get from note taking to writing to creating test data and so on, or from learning about Docker or DevOps and so on and so forth. You could find a lot of micro tools, shortcuts, hacks, GitHub repositories here to get you super productive. Now, both of these resources are available for free for you to use and leverage. Now, these are just some of the hacks that I use, but there are of course more, and I encourage you to find more hacks. And when you find more hacks, make a note of it and try to use it in your work. Because unless you just know about hacks and you don't use them, those would not help you directly. So in the end, I mean, what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that you have to think like a gamer. Now, any kid you talk to, I mean, you would see them doing certain exploration, you would see them doing practice of their games, they would be curious, they would be proactive, they would reason why this is happening, why the opposite player is making a certain kind of move and what they should do. They would think critically, they would look for ways to find hacks and how can they go to the next level. They would use of why they are not able to clear this stage, or they would even do competitor analysis that what the competitor is doing, what my big brother is doing, or what my friend is doing, and how I can excel from them. They will also think about the different risks and consequences of each and every step that they take. What are the trade-offs, what will help them, what can push them back, and so on. So that's one part. And in the end, I mean, if you really want to enjoy testing by playing games, we designed this testers playground that's available at bit.ly/testers playground. Now, what this has small micro games that you can play alone or with your team of testers or with your entire team of testers and developers, and use them for risk storming, for learning about UI, UX, usability, exploration, security, strategy, and so on. So, I mean, if you attempt your testing as game, life would be more fun. And these are just some of the games to get started. I think Ajay would have given this link in the chat, and if not, he would be sharing it. But the link is bit.ly/testers playground. So that's a small phrase, testers playground, and use it to play and enjoy and learn about testing through games. In the end, I wanted to share certain references. You can take a screenshot of this also. I mean, if you really want to learn more about how to make testing more engaging, fun, and be a pro gamer in testing, or like play this game very well, amazing book to read, Perfect Software, Other Illusions About Testing, an eye-opener, opened my eyes. Non-testing book that I feel every tester should read, Secrets of Consulting, Secrets of a Buccaneer Scholar, which talks about how to consult, how to talk about things, how to influence people, and then like how to learn fast in a smart way. Different blogs, Satisfies by James Mark, Develop Sense by Michael Bolton, Magnifiant by Hype Scoots, then Testing Tidbits is my own blog. I put a lot of material out there, especially hacks and checklists and things that I create. YouTube channel RST, good. Nicola Lindgren is also posting good material on testing and some realities of testing. Talk to expert testers, James, Michael, Ajay. Follow them. I mean, I've learned most of the things, most of the nitty-gritties of this game from them. If you want to invest in courses, workshop, RST, work friends, now these are opportunities which you can use to learn. And I mean, join communities. I mean, Test Tribe, good place, Ministry of Testing, Test Chat. There are people out there to help you. There are hacks available for free. You just have to invest your time, take the right decision. That's pretty much. I mean, so now we can open up for questions, and I really want to thank each one of you who have decided to spend their precious time with me. And I feel that you would have found something, and you can ask me more, and I'll be happy to answer. And meanwhile, I would start with answering this question that I got, that how will I be able to influence my team? I'm a fresher to the industry. Awesome. Good question. I mean, first thing, that you are a fresher, you are attending events like this. This is automatically an influence for whoever would know that you are learning testing at a pro level. Second thing, your work would define your credibility. To do good work, you have to show good work, and you have to talk about your good work or your learnings in a way that people can take. Now, a common mistake or a trap that I would share, or a problem that I used to have, was that I used to bombard too much information on others, and I used to give a lot. So I used to consume a lot, and then I used to just share a lot. And sometimes that creates a psychological boundary for other person to take so much things. So my advice that I learned from the book Secrets of Consulting is that give 10% at a time. Don't over bombard your team. I mean, if you are thinking that I have learned about some mistakes and issues and I'll fix them tomorrow itself, it's very hard that this will happen. Not because you are not doing it enough, but we live in a social world. There are systems, and changes do take time. They need change in mindset. So I mean, attempt things small and one at a time. Next is any question? Uh, we have a couple of unanswered questions in the Q&A box. Yes. So I'll take this question from Sandeep. But what is model-based testing? Where does this fit in with what you have covered so far? Okay. So model-based testing is about creating a model of your product. So I'll just show you. So what model-based testing is? And model-based testing is again a smart way to save yourself time in your test. Model-based testing, with model-based testing, what you can do is you can create a visual model of your feature or product. So what a visual model is? A visual model is something like this. That what happens, it starts from here, then it goes here, then here. And you have to map out everything visually. Now, when you draw this in a model-based testing tool, what happens is you can directly generate your test that covers each of these nodes, or each of the possible paths, or each of the edge possibilities or multiple conditions, and so on. One awesome model-based testing tool that I have been using right now is Test Compass. So I have been using Test Compass a lot, and I'll just share that. Yeah. So that is something that I have been using. Any other question? I hope this answers your question, Sandeep. If yes, you can let me know in the Q&A. I have answered the question by divide. I have answered the question by Sandeep. Sandeep asked another question on mnemonics and checklist. So two good resources, Sandeep, Ajay has already given you. One more place that I feel has a lot of good cheat sheet is MOT testing cheat sheet. So it's a Ministry of Testing cheat sheet. So that's this is again a very fantastic resource on this topic, MOT cheat sheet. So I'll also share this. And I I have used it a lot. So previously it was Elizabeth Hendrickson's cheat sheet, and now I think Ministry of Testing has done an amazing job in extending that and bringing more things. So how can I share you that? I'll share you in this answer, post answer. Okay. Okay. So any other questions? If no question, you can let me know by no question. If you liked this session, feel free to share it in social media, talk about it, what you learned. One way to influence people is by telling them that this is what you learned, and that again opens up a possibility of further discussions and things. So feel free to do that. Uh, any good resource sources of testing mnemonics and checklist? Yes. So one is this, and I think another is bit.ly/ajmme, which consists of a list of checklists, or not checklist but mnemonics on testing. So I'll put this link again in the Q&A. Can Yes, you can DM me. So I have a question that can they DM me? Yes, and my Twitter handle is @Parwal Rahul. So this is the one. And at the same time, if you want checklist, then this is the list for checklist. If you search for this category on my website, there is a category for checklist, and there you can find. Perfect. Thank you, Ajay, for posting my LinkedIn, Twitter, and Nuke Test Twitter ID. Thank you. And Christian, yes, you can DM me for further questions. Anything else? And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. This is my LinkedIn handle. So feel free to connect with me and we will discuss there. So I am here for 5 more minutes, and if we don't have any question, then we would close. If you have any questions, let me know and we would discuss them. Okay, I see one new question. Should a fresher go for ISTQB? If you ask me, I mean, I have never done any certification, and STQB not. But what I would recommend as a fresher for you to do is make your testing portfolio. So make your testing work visible. That way you can earn better credibility at low cost, and you can even learn about testing better. So instead of focusing on testing certifications, think on the lines of testing portfolios or your bug reports or contribution to open source. Now, these are the things which I feel in 2023 we should be thinking about. Making anything visible on the web is absolutely zero cost. Resources are available for free. Use, leverage the internet and make your profile bigger, larger, and more broader. That's my answer to this. Hope it answers, Mohsin. So happy to see some friends joining in and helping in the chat, in the Q&A to navigate through this. Would you suggest putting portfolio on GitHub or making a portfolio site instead? Start with anything. I mean, if your primary focus is right now on automation, make your portfolio on GitHub. There are resources on how you can decorate your GitHub profile, how you could add a README and make it more attractive. You can also make a portfolio website. Now I have both. So I have a good GitHub portfolio, or I mean a site where I have some repositories, but at the same time I have a portfolio website that is testing tidbits where I put almost all my blogs and videos and so on. So yeah. Uh, Thank you, Ajay, for sharing this wonderful resource with Mohsin. What's the difference between BBST and RST courses? Uh, I have not done formal BBST training. I've done RST, which was a very good experience, and I would rather share the material. But the material in both is in general very good. The material is pretty good. I would say. And BBST stands for Black Box Software Testing. RST stands for Rapid Software Testing. Uh, and I wrote an experience report that how me doing rapid software testing helped me. So I've done like formal classes of RST, and with BBST, I mean I've referred to material from Dr. Kem Kenner from testingeducation.org. So yeah, that was the case. What if fresher don't have any portfolio or very little to show? Absolutely. So that's the key, right? All freshers have very little to show. Now, if you have something to show, that gives you the edge. I mean, that's the essence that I'm showing you. That while most are fighting with a resume, you are fighting with battle with a portfolio. So you are automatically ahead. And once you start creating 2 to 3 things, you would instantly see something on your wall, something to showcase, and then you would add more with time. So think of it on the lines of your testing job versus your testing career, and your career is long term. So you need a portfolio for your amazing career. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you for the feedback, Anonymous. And thanks, Rahul, for the amazing session. Thank you, Shoaib, for attending and spending your time with me. That makes it more good. Perfect. And this is the free reading material that Ajay shared in the chat. That's pretty good. That's pretty awesome to see and to learn about stuff. Thanks for the webinar. Perfect. So thank you. You're a wonderful audience. I mean, feel free to engage and let this relationship continue even after the webinar.